I've had a chance to witness a lot of different demands about how we need to respond immediately. I've responded immediately. We've already started an internal affairs investigations, working with the state attorney, ensuring that the criminal charges were suitable to make sure that the deputies responded within compliance of our policies for use of force. And so as we continue to work this investigation, things may change as they did yesterday. The deputies who were involved went from being in restrictive duty to being suspended now. We are not closed the investigation. Things may continue to move forward. There may be other disciplinary actions that take place, but I will not jump ahead of the standard protocols of providing due process settings for our deputies. We as a country demand that when we are involved in arresting anyone, that they get their share, that they get their processing elements, be stepping in front of a court system amongst a group of their peers and actually having evidence and procedural information presented that is designed to say they are guilty or not. And I can tell you, to see the demand for everyone to say just go ahead out and execute the public opinion's need is not going to happen on my watch. I owe it to the deputies, whether they are wrong or not, to ensure that they get their due process elements that are articulated by law, not by an opinion, not by someone's independent expectation. And when those fact findings are done, if they need to have further discipline, it will happen. The one thing I want to encourage this community and every single elected official that's sitting in front of me, it's very easy to stand up and cry out that the sheriff's office needs to just flat out terminate this employee. That's easy for all of you to do, but it's not easy to do for the chief administrator here who's compelled to execute activities by law. And a lot of elected officials have jumped ahead, and I think it's inflammatory because I also have the responsibility to make sure that we don't get 50 more kids out in the community picketing and rioting and feeling as though that their chief law enforcement officer is not sympathetic to their needs, that I'm not sympathetic to the concerns, that I'm not sympathetic to the allegations of excessive force. I was put here exclusively for about accountability, to take leadership and lead this organization forward by being objective, being fair, and making sure that every single employee, all 5,500 of my employees, we're going to be held to the same standard and expectations that we have for the civilians and citizens that live in this county. I'm not here to speak in terms of politics. The community will get their just desserts, and so will my deputies. So as we continue to go through this process, I would hope that the community that stand behind me understands that we don't create further rift and conflict within our community, because at the end of the day, the entire nation's watching, and they want to know what I'm going to do and how we're going to respond. But they don't live in Broward County. This is our county, and if we're going to start dictating actions because what somebody think about in Colorado or Denver or anywhere else part of the United States, then we are at loss. I see what's going on. I understand it's very intense. I understand there's an emotional side to it. But don't lose focus on, if we're going to want justice for one, it's justice for all. And so with that, if there's any line of considerations or questions that you want to offer or present, I'll do my best to answer them.
I appreciate that, Sheriff. Thank you very much. And one thing I'd like to just state for everybody, while this is very politically charged, there are people who have opinions and emotions. So when there are speakers who have any comments, I would ask you to respect the speaker. No comment, no booing, no cheering, no clapping, to try to keep decorum in the audience. And I will open this up to my colleagues, and I see that Commissioner Gillen has a question or a comment.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sheriff Tony. Thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for meeting with the Broward Black elected officials on Saturday morning. That meeting was pre-scheduled prior to the incident, and you agreed to address that topic while meeting with us. And then you also agreed to show up here at my request to address our community. And I asked that either you come or a high-level person come, and you stated that you felt this was so important that you needed to be here. So for that, I certainly appreciate it. I respect the role of police officers. I know how tough the job is. As a young person that did not want to go to college, I considered becoming a police officer, but I know my temperament, and I know that I probably wouldn't be able to handle some of the situations that police officers go through. I would want to inflict my own justice on suspects based on certain criminal actions, so I removed myself from that process. Just yesterday, I was at the North Broward College campus at the graduation ceremony of the 322nd class of new police officers representing various cities. My best friend from high school just became a police officer for the city of Fort Lauderdale. One of the things that the speaker said about the police officers and the new class, he said to all the new graduates, as of today, you forfeit the right to have a bad day. You must be outstanding. You forfeit the right to have a bad day. And I would argue that the 3 police officers who responded in Tamarac had a bad day. The one police officer who put the mace in the boy's face and threw him to the ground. The other police officer who jumped on top of the guy and slammed his head into the concrete, breaking the boy's nose. And then the third police officer that people aren't really talking about, he just had his foot resting on an arrestee who was already on the ground. So I think the actions of all 3 police officers were inappropriate and excessive. And because of that, I appreciate the process that you have to go through. I respect the process. I understand due process, and I understand that you would be making a mistake by taking immediate action, which, when the press goes away, it would come back in the form of a lawsuit and other items. Now, while this did happen in Broward County, which is your territory, it happened in our city, which is our territory, what we're responsible for, the 5 of us here. So what I'm requesting, that while you go through this process, is that the 3 police officers who were involved be removed from working in the city of Tamarac while this investigation is ongoing. So that's a formal request. I've read comments from my colleague, Julie Fishman, regarding the incident. I spoke to my colleagues, Commissioner Bolton and Vice Mayor Placco, and everyone expressed outrage. And so now I'm asking if there's a consensus for this body to remove the 3 police officers from working in the city of Tamarac. So that's a motion, and I expect a second.
Actually, this is not something within our purview. This is within the Sheriff's Office Department.
I asked the police officer, I forget her name, who came on Monday. She said we have to make a formal request through our city manager, and I have a letter here with the formal request. And again, I'm asking for consensus.
Sheriff Tony, will you please explain to me when you said that they were already suspended without pay, what that actually means?
So 2 of the deputies that were part of the initial part of the internal affairs investigation were immediately placed on restrictive duty, administrative duty, which takes them out of it. But as we continue to fact find and look at different things, I found that we had enough substantial information to suspend them. And so that was the action I took yesterday. What the commissioner is speaking of, he's including a 3rd deputy or so that was involved in the entire incident. So as the IA continues to work through that, other deputy may become a subject of it. But at this point in time, the primary deputies that are involved in our IA are the 2 that you've already familiar with. And in terms of the comments that the commissioner made, look, I appreciate it. You and I had a chance to sit and talk for about 2 hours the other day.
Yes.
And I'm happy that you stated that that meeting was prearranged in advance, because, again, we take things out of context and create these falsehoods in our own head that, oh, now this is a strategic play by the new sheriff to get all the black elected people in one room.
Right.
My focal point was to get these people in the room a long time ago so that we can understand the issues that exist in our community, specifically with the minority base here. All right? That's not some pretend effort, folks. That was scheduled. You're hearing it from your commissioner. But it's going to continue to echo out that it was otherwise. The issues that you address about removing deputies and things out of this particular city and moving them forward, it's not my understanding that that is within your purview. But if it is, and there's a legal justification behind it, that's what this commission wants, fine. But I will tell you that establishes a very poor precedent because what happens here in Tamarac will echo throughout the rest of Broward County. And for every time we have an incident, do we want our commissioners and mayors to say to remove the deputies when we know that there's a process in place, whereas if I remove them, they may be terminated? Where I remove them, they may be subject to criminal charges? Because these are all the considerations that I have to take into account. It's no longer just about the arrest in itself. It's not just about terminating deputies or whether or not they're going to be removed. There's a criminal aspect here that the state attorney's looking at. And we had something happen that has been unprecedented in Broward County, where the typical process is for us to conduct our internal affairs, forward it over to the state attorney's office. The entire case aspects have an opportunity to go before a committee that we've established with civilians to be able to vote and place recommendations about different disciplinary actions that they see suitable before it finds its way to my desk. The state attorney has jumped ahead of this investigation, which never has happened. And quite frankly, I think it's because the level of political impact and the cries that's been occurring, not just within our community, but across the country. And I think that was a mistake. I work with Mike. He's a very exceptional attorney at what he does. And the activities that were done were not wrong. I think there was consistent, but I think we are getting to a position where politics is starting to impact justice. And there's a reason why the Lady Justice wears a blind veil and there's a balancing scale, because no one supersedes it, including myself. If I ever violate the law or have the potential for violating, I expect that I will be in internal affairs. I would be being investigated or removed, because I'm in a position where we just discovered a governor can remove you. So I think it's a poor precedence to establish, but if this commission and the mayor have the authority to request that and I'm obligated to meet that need, then it'll be done.
Okay, so I'm going to submit it for the record, and I'm going to read it so everyone understands, and I'm going to ask our city attorney to address it. So this is addressed to our city manager, who is the contract manager between BSO and the city of Tamarac, Michael Cernich. Dear Mr. Cernich, I am formally requesting that the 3 BSO deputies who responded to the scene at McDonald's on Thursday, April 18, 2019, be reassigned to another city. The 3 deputies seen on the video brutally assaulting and abusing 2 teenagers involved in the incident that has gained national attention shall be prohibited from working in the city of Tamarac. The reckless and dangerous behavior of the 3 deputies on the scene is unacceptable to me personally and to the residents we strive to protect and serve. Please follow up with Sheriff Gregory Tony and respond within 5 business days. So, Mr. City Attorney, please address that through the chair.
Mr. City Attorney, will you please?
Now it is. Thank you. Good morning, Sheriff. Welcome,
Morning, sir.
Welcome to Tamarac. Mayor and Commission, to the Commissioner, a couple of observations that may help you. Number one is this is a manager-commission governmental form under the Charter. City manager is the daily operations manager of the City of Tamarac. We all know that. You're the policymakers. You're the legislators on the City Commission. The contract, we're a contract city. BSO has a contract with the City of Tamarac, which operationalizes the police department in the city. You can formulate a motion to request what you're asking for in the context of being a policymaker, but the request must be to the manager, because the manager operates the city. You have the ability to make the motion. It's a legally justified motion in that context, but to the extent that you would choose to implement that motion, the manager would be the source through which that discussion would have to occur. Secondarily, the sheriff is before you. The sheriff can respond on his own. He has his own independent legal rights as a constitutional officer, and can respond to whatever request you may make to the manager for this particular purpose. Having just seen the letter this morning and having understood your request, is it, from the Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentarily correct? It is. You can make the motion. You can ask your colleagues to support it. The manager would have to also be responsive to that request.
So again, I'm making the motion that the 3 officers be removed from working in the city of Tamarac until the internal investigation that the sheriff is conducting is over. Can I get a second?
Second.
For discussion, I'm going to also ask again for clarification, please, Sheriff Tony. If they are suspended, does that mean they are not at work?
Correct.
So they're not working in our city at this time?
Correct.
So at this time, we already have 2 deputies, who are already suspended and not at work in our city during this time.
Correct.
So then your motion actually is only for the remaining person.
I'll revise my motion for the remaining person.
Is there still a second? Is there a second as amended?
Second as amended.
Open for discussion.
Madam Mayor?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
you all are starting to draw into legal aspects that are outside of why I'm here today.
Correct.
And if your commission, I mean, no disrespect, need to work this thing out in terms of what the request is going to be, that's going to have to be done while I'm not here.
Understood. I know you only have 4 minutes left.
That's what I was
appreciate-
getting to,
Yeah,
so-
and
And I'm
the
not-
sheriff did speak with me about his time frame, and I'm grateful that he's here, or we are grateful that he is here. But I do know you need to go, but I do think that there are some things that are important, especially since my
I'm not asking you
colleagues
to
are-
respond today.
No, I understand. I was just,
Right, but I have some comments that I would like him, while you are here.
Sure.
Because I do have concerns of this body encroaching on your power. This is within your purview, and which is one of the reasons why the city of Tamarac hires a vendor. It is not, it is our power for discussion. I have not read the contract, so I don't know if I necessarily agree. And I would want to see what our contract says within this. I know we
Ask the
direct.
city attorney.
Commissioner Gallen, I give you the respect for you to speak. You're going to give me the same. So that is one of my concerns about what part of our power we are encroaching into yours, just as much as we would never interfere with the power that is encroaching for the school board or the county.
Sure.
And again, this is an item that is highly politicized and charged. So to my colleagues, before we make this vote, I do want to just clarify with our city attorney, I'm pretty sure you don't have our contract memorized, but are these
Not yet.
within?
No.
Are these within our parameters? Or is this a motion that is made without any power behind it?
The motion's a proper motion, which the commission as a policy board can make. Your city manager is the contract manager for the BSO contract. So the request is really through the manager to the sheriff. And how that's articulated in public and otherwise in writing is between all of you and the manager and the sheriff. And the sheriff need not physically respond this morning. That's not his legal obligation to do that.
Okay, I will ask my colleagues, are there any comments? I see that there are none. I will also then make one more comment. I see that the third officer has not been brought into this, and so I personally do have trouble with casting a broad net at this time and interfering with your responsibilities. I would hate that if any single employee in our city had trouble anywhere else and some other political body decided to come here and tell us as a commission how we are supposed to handle protecting our employees and our people. So personally,
and I'm not going to be
I-
told any differently.
I
That's
just had
the
trouble
truth
with
of
that
it.
motion, so that is my comment for the record. Commissioner Gallen, I see you wish to speak again. Sheriff Tony really does have to leave.
I understand that, and I respect that, and we are not encroaching. We have a contract with the city, with Broward Sheriff's Office, so we are well within our right to make that request. As, I forget the officer's name who spoke at our workshop on Monday.
Major Russo.
Major Russo said that it is within our purview to make that request through the city manager, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And the city attorney confirmed that it's correct
And
and
you've made
proper.
that point very clear.
Okay.
So while we have very limited time left, while we have the sheriff here, Commissioner Bolton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we make this vote, I think that it is important of me to say, Sheriff Tony, that when we met you, you were very articulate. You presented the information to us in a way that we did not see before. And to that point, I thank you for doing that, and thank you for coming here this morning to address the City Commission. As the rest of the world perhaps saw, I saw the video as well, and the video was heartbreaking. When I first got the video, I couldn't look at it. I turned it away. It was not until people were making comments on social media that I actually had to watch the video. And as a father of one son, it changes the way you look at how our children are treated. And so this young man was pepper sprayed while he was walking away. While he was walking away, he was then grabbed and pushed to the ground. And while he was pushed to the ground, he was stricken many times. And so I don't see any reason why the third deputy should not be removed. They were all abusing this young man, and I'm just curious as to why 2 were removed and 1 was not, and that would frame my decision today, your response.
So again, we open up an internal affairs investigation on the 2 deputies that we had a crystal clear involvement on the entire aspect in terms of the arrests and everything else. Because we are actively investigating this thing does not mean more deputies are not going to be included in this thing. So to speculate that we are not paying attention to the totality of circumstances, or even perhaps ignoring that another deputy may be involved and have to be examined, that's false. This is part of the, excuse me, sir, this is part of the entire process. We are looking at every single body cam video for every single deputy that was on duty. We have to look at the McDonald's video. There is a ton of things that needs to be done, including witness statements and everything else. So don't jump to conclusions and assume that that is not going to be a consideration.
Sheriff Tony, I've heard your answer, but it does not necessarily answer my question. There were 3 deputies, 2 were removed. All 3 were on site when this young man was...
You don't understand use of force policy, and I don't have the time to explain it. The facts still stand. It's an internal affairs investigation.
I gave you the option to speak, and I hope that you'd allow me to respond. 3 deputies were on site, 2 were removed, and there is a 3rd deputy that was not removed. Before I make my decision today, I would like you to give me some framework as to why that deputy was not removed.
I'm not here to under no form of obligation. I'm here because I want to be here. And so as my guys investigate this practice along with the state attorneys, forgive me, because what you are telling me is that I am compelled to give you an answer related to an investigative practice, and I am not.
Well,
so that's how I'm answering your question.
As a top sheriff of Broward County, I would hope that you'd want to answer the questions.
It's not about
of
being the
elected
top
officials
sheriff.
and
so
all of our...
this is the conflict aspect that I won't accept. I will not stand here and be held as if I am a suspect of anything. I'm going to hold my people accountable. If they stepped out of line, I don't care if it's 3 deputies or 35, they will be held accountable. But I will not stand here and be lectured to about the laws of investigative practices because no one up there have the experience that I have or my staff. So, sir, you're out of line with the context of what you are demanding from me, and I won't accept it. Mayor, is there any other question you have for me?
And that is the same aggression that your officers used when they pushed one of our young people to the ground.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and this
please.
is the same type of leadership that you are displaying with your
wrong.
officers. I will vote now because you have given me all the
Commissioner
answers I
Bolton.
need. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
You're wrong.
Sheriff Tony, thank you for being here today. I'm sorry that you have to run. I know there were some others who may want to have some time with you, but I know you'll make time when you can.
And in terms of this community, you will have your turn to speak to me. I'm not blindsided to understand that you have your own voice that you want to account for and have some demands, but it will be done in the right setting. I promise you that to everybody behind me, because it's not just about the politicians up here, it's about you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Travel safely.
Sheriff Tony, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen from the commission, is there anything new that you'd like to add before we go forward? Seeing that there's nothing lit, I do also want to make one comment. As much as I do support the elected bodies that we have to make their decisions and do their procedures, it is no way in shape or form saying that I think that any unjustified force should ever be used against a child. Please know that that's not my intention. I feel for the children and their families very much, and I am very appreciative of our school board who is jumping ahead and doing things to help us to make sure that our children feel safe as well and are doing what they need to do to protect them. We've had very good conversations with the school board members and with the principal of the school and working to matters so we don't have this incident ever happen again and trying to protect our children. So I do want everybody to be aware of that matter. Commissioner Gellan, do you have something new to add before we vote?
Yes. Our 2 school board members in the room have made comments regarding that incident. decrying the abuse and treatment of that child. School Board Member Osgood, School Board Member Aladef, our Broward County Mayor made a comment about it, our Broward County Vice Mayor. But you, as the mayor of the city of Tamarac, I have not heard or seen a written comment for you. Do you have any comment for the child, for the family, for the residents that you lead, for the city that you lead, regarding this issue and the behavior of the police officers? They've all made their public comments criticizing the behavior of the police officers. As our colleague Julie Fishman, Commissioner Bolton, Vice Mayor Placco, I haven't heard anything from you. Do you have any comments regarding the behavior of the police officers involved in that
I
situation?
believe I just made my comment, Commissioner Gillen, and I am not going to let you politicize me because it's convenient for you.
I'm not politicizing you. Everyone made a public comment that you
And I
can
have
read or
made my
find,
comment.
and I've not seen your public comment.
I have made my comment, and I have spoken to individuals, and I've done what I've needed to do. I've spoken to the mayor of the county, and I have spoken with the
What is your
principals.
comment to the
I
community?
have just made my comments to the community, Commissioner Gillen. You don't have to like it. I do not like what I saw, but I am also know that I am not the judge and the jury on that one. It will go through the proper procedures, just like I would expect anybody to have their just day. And that I am grateful that the children are not hurt worse. I'm sorry that they are hurt at all. But it is in the realm of what's being handled now, and it is not for me to stand up here and try to prove anything to you.
I'm not asking you to prove anything to me.
and
Our
that is
school board
fine.
members made a comment,
And
our
I've
vice
spoken
mayor
with
made a
them,
comment of
and
the
I've
county,
spoken with them
the
this
mayor
weekend.
of the county made a comment, you've made no
Commissioner
public
Bolton,
comment.
I'm calling roll.
Call the roll.
He's Commissioner
Gillen,
Gillen, not
Commissioner
Commissioner
Gillen.
Bolton, for the record.
Yes, it is correct.
Commissioner Fishman? Commissioner Gillen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Placco?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Mayor Gomez?
No.
Motion carried.
Madam Mayor, for the record, the letter that was submitted by Commissioner Gillen is part of the record with the clerk, and it is transmitted to the manager accordingly.
Thank you very much. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being here. At this time, we do have our school board members. I know your time is tight as well, but if you'd like to come and say anything, you are more than welcome to. If you do not, there's no pressure to do so. Again, ladies, I'm not trying to pressure you to do so. I just want you to have the opportunity if you so wish.
Hi, Lori Al-Hadef, 8675 Watercrest Circle West, Parkland. Thank you for having us here today. As your school board member, I was very upset of what transpired at the McDonald's. As your school board member, though, I like to work collaboratively with the commission to figure out ways that we can provide services or things for our students to do after school, and look for different ways that we can engage activities after school at the school, and then also what we can provide within the community. And I think we have to work together to reach and meet those needs for our students. And I think that it's also very important that we actually sit down and talk to the students and figure out what their needs are and what they want to see happen, and engage the students, because we can provide 100 activities for them, but if they're not actively involved with those activities, they're not going to want to go. So I recommend that we sit down with the students to figure out what their needs are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Osgood?
Dr. Rosalind Osgood, Broward County School Board, District 5, and another school board member that represents part of Tamarac. Good morning to the commission, to all of you. And I have been very vocal about my views. I'm outraged. I'm disturbed. I'm even more outraged after being here this morning. It is not okay for someone to abuse our children.
Thank you.
Our children have a right to be at McDonald's and anywhere else that they want to go together, and no one should take advantage of them, especially not a law enforcement officer. And as elected officials, we all have to be held accountable for the people that work under us. I've spent the last year with the chief officer of the school board's job being on the line and people calling for him to resign, and he wasn't even on site when an incident happened. And to have officers aggressively beat a student in that way, this is becoming the norm in Broward County. We had an African-American girl beat up in Carl Springs a couple of months ago, 14-year-old. Now we got an African-American kid at McDonald's beat up. We have somebody shoot up a school of 17 kids, and they get an escort to jail. So I'm not happy. People that look like me are not happy, and we're not going to stop speaking out. Certainly, we want to encourage our kids to respond in a peaceful way, to not be out in open areas protesting, because we don't want that aggression, which is becoming the norm now, I guess, for those people in the green uniforms. I mean, I saw it here today, and I know that oftentimes employees take on the spirit of their leader, but we have to be mindful of our students to try to get them in settings where we're talking to them about what's happening, because they are outraged, they're organizing, they want to protest, and we don't want to have them out in an open public area that they're in harm's way. So I would encourage us all to start having meetings with students and forums in a controlled environment that we're able to help guide their decisions. And I really appreciate this commission, Commissioner Gelin, and the rest of you for taking the bold stand you took today and saying that you don't want someone working in your city that's going to abuse kids. I know due process. We use it all the time in government. But when somebody is a danger, you have to respond immediately, and there are things you can do while they're going through the due process. So I'm going to encourage the community to keep speaking about your expectations. We won't be bullied. We're not going to have anybody come into our county in any position and bully us and tell us that we can't speak out, we can't use our voices, we can't use social media. We have to stand up for our children. We have to let them know that we're going to protect them, and we have to demand that people that commit child abuse, that they get charged and that they're held accountable, even if they wear a uniform.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Osgood. And I'm going to also make sure I clarify something. I in no way, shape, or form believe in child abuse. What I believe in is the process, and that I believe in the sheriff when he says he's going to do his job. I have to have faith. I have to have faith he's going to do his job. I have to have faith that all of us are going to do his job. And so that is where I come from. I would hate the idea that any child is abused ever, in home, on the street,
Right.
by someone they love, by someone they don't know. So that is where my perspective is coming from, and it is a very narrow way to look at it. It may not be appreciated by all, but that is where I have to believe. And I do believe in the community, and I know from my conversations with you both, and also my meeting with Principal Armas and the Assistant Principal Crossman Monday. I know that you are arranging small individual meetings with the children of the school and working on things to talk with them and see what we could do for after-school programs. We have a situation where the plaza is not, it's in the city of Tamarac. The school is in Coral Springs, and it's not city property. We're trying to figure out a way to make things better, and also what we understand is that a lot of the children are waiting for a school bus. So I've already had the pleasure of speaking to Commissioner Udine. I hadn't had yet the chance of speaking to Mayor Bogan, though I spoke with him this weekend, and he did assure me that whatever we need, we're going to try to do. So we're looking at the fact that that school bus, it's not a bus, it's a county bus. Kids get out at 2:45. The bus that they need to get on is at 3:45. That's an hour. So we are working on seeing what we could do about timing. So on that note, I would like to call up Commissioner Udine.
Good morning, Mayor and City Commission. I, too, was shocked and horrified when I saw that video Thursday night and Friday. I think we have a duty as adults in our community to protect children of of all races, of all colors, of all religious beliefs. And I think that the same way we saw our community come together for the students in Parkland, I think that the community needs to come together for this issue. I don't think it should be at all acceptable or at all something where we can find anything acceptable about a young black child being aggressively arrested and beaten in that way. And I support a full investigation in that, and I'm hopeful that the people that we see on video are held accountable, and I'm gratified that the state attorney dropped the charges against the 2 students at this time. I just don't think that there's anything productive to come out of that. I did speak to the mayor, and I've spoke to some of the other commissioners. There is a slight issue with the bus that comes in that area, and I'm reaching out to the Broward County Transit. I sent an email to Chris Walton this morning. I expect to speak to him. Because there is the downtime of when that bus comes to that area, and if that's something that can be done proactively to help in the situation, I want to try and be a part of that. And just to reiterate that as your county commissioner for part of the city of Tamarac, I'm here to assist you in any way that I can, because we all have an obligation to all our children in Broward County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there another elected official in the room that I have missed? There is not. Okay, thank you. We actually are at the end of this particular item. I do see that 2 of my colleagues wish to make a comment, and so I will let that happen. This is a little out of our normal procedure, so please forgive. Please make your comments, and we will move on to the business of the day. Commissioner Gellin.
First, I want to acknowledge School Board Member Lori Adelhoff. I want to express my condolences for your loss. I want to thank you for taking that energy and doing something positive with it in your role as a school board member. I grew up in a tough neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. My freshman year in high school, I went to Canarsie High School, where we had metal detectors to keep guns from coming into schools. So what happened in Parkland was we tried to avoid it back in 1989 when I was in high school by having metal detectors. It's a shame that we have to have these kind of measures in our schools, which is why I'm against, I have some reservations about some of our gun laws. So I'm sorry for your loss, and I thank you for doing something positive with it. School board member Osgood, even though we grew up in different cities, it was the same type of environment, dangerous environment. But we really have to come up with some solutions for our community, for our kids. And arresting kids for minor issues is not the solution. I think kids fight. I have a 4-year-old at a Nova preschool program. They fight. And I would rather kids fight with their fists than bring knives and guns to school. So let's not criminalize these kind of actions. Let's make sure that kids learn lessons, find more positive ways to resolve their differences. But let's not criminalize kids for doing what's normal by teenagers. That's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Gellin. Commissioner Bolton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the extent that Commissioner Gellin made a motion and motion was carried, and the majority of the City Commission carried that motion, I would like to ask now the City Attorney or the City Manager what now happens. I understand that you explained the process, but kind of explain the process now in layman's terms for all of us. What now happens? Does our decision bear weight, and now the city manager has to follow through with appropriate actions in removing the 3rd deputy? Just please let us understand what happens from here. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Dr. Osgood this morning. Thank you so very much for coming and speaking so eloquently and passionately to our commission, and to you as well, Representative Lori, for coming this morning as well, and to you, Commissioner Udine. You're always here, your family. Thank you so very much for being here. A child was shoved to the ground, and he was abused by 3 deputies. And Tamarac has spoken, and we want answers. I have a degree in criminal justice, and through my studies, I understand that the court system does not treat children like they're adults. And this child was not even treated like an adult. He was treated like trash. And so our community has spoken, our commission has spoken, and so now I want to hear the process going forward from you, Mr. City Attorney, and from you, Mr. City Manager. Thank you so much.
Mayor, may I respond?
Yes, and then please note that the Vice Mayor does have a comment.
Sure. The letter that Commissioner Gellin drafted, dated April the 24th, is directed not to the Commission, but to the City Manager. And the request is specifically the following. I'm formally requesting that the 3 BSO deputies who responded to the scene at McDonald's on Thursday, April 18, 2019, be reassigned to another city. The 3 deputies seen on the video brutally assaulting and abusing the 2 teenagers involved in the incident that has gained national attention shall be prohibited from working in the city of Tamarac. The reckless and dangerous behavior of the 3 deputies on the scene is unacceptable, and to me personally and to the residents we strive to protect and to serve. Please follow up with Sheriff Gregory Tony and respond within 5 business days. Now, Commissioner Gellin has the right to write letters, so don't each one of you individually. He made a request. He's asked his colleagues to, in fact, support his request to the manager. The commission, by a 4-to-1 vote on a motion that was consistent with the request of the sheriff to attend, who, by the way, again for the record, is an independent constitutional officer. He does or does not have to respond. That's up to the sheriff today. In the context of this letter, however, the vote of the commission was to ask the manager to do something about it. That's what the letter requests. Properly consistent with the charter, the commission has taken a request public on a vote of 4-to-1. It's in the manager's hands to deal with it directly. At this point, I'll defer to our city manager, but recognizing the fact that you independently, individually, can't direct the manager to do anything, but collectively you can.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, Commissioner Bolton, I have Commissioner Gellin's letter. I have direction from the City Commission. We'll review the contract with BSO and what the procedures are and report back to you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I think everyone agrees violence on any level by anyone is not acceptable. We have this situation here. I would request we, as the adults, now we have to band together to make this better for all our children. We can't be pulled apart. We need to band together and do whatever it is we need to do to ensure this never happens again to any child, regardless of what city they're in. I heard now we're going to talk to the kids to find out about some after-school programs, and you're absolutely right. If the children are not interested in it, then we're really wasting our time. We need to do whatever it is we need to do together as a community to bring about peace in our community and take care of our children. So I encourage each and every one of you to get involved as a positive force and help our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to move to the proclamations and presentations. Thank everybody who's come here today, and please go out there, be safe, hug your children, hug your families, and know that City of Tamarac does expect everybody to be safe. Thank you.